Are you interested in effortlessly growing your Bitcoin portfolio? I sure am. The Bitcoin credit card by Gemini earns you Bitcoin back on every purchase. Use it like any credit card. Buy lunch, gas, or your weekly groceries, and you'll earn up to 4% back instantly in Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos straight to your account. All that with no annual fee. And right now, you can grab a $200 Bitcoin welcome bonus. It's the easiest way to start building your Bitcoin stack. Go to Gemini.com/card to learn more. Terms apply. See the link in the description for more information regarding rates and fees.
The fight for our future starts with belief in our nation and its promise, in our future and its potential. Together we answer America's call to win. We are Marines. We were made for this.
This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Second hour coming up this hour. Very much looking forward to special guest that we have coming up today. Jason Jarvis is going to be with us coming up in 15 minutes. You can follow him up on Twitter at JJarvNFLBets. Currently in second place in the Circa Friday Football Invitational. It's a great reminder that today we, of course, have the Circa Friday Football Invitational. So make sure you tune in for Matt Youmans. Youmans strikes me as a big Halloween guy. I feel like he'll come dressed in costumes, loves to go out amongst children and celebrate the holiday. But he's going to put that all aside to continue with the Circa Friday Football Invitational tonight. And the second place contestant there, and Jason Jarvis, is going to be with us, get his thoughts on the NFL games that he has on his radar this weekend. And in 30 minutes from now, Zach Cohen at Betting on X give us his thoughts on the NBA slate. Got a couple of player props that we can discuss, as well as some plays in college football and the NFL. We do share some thoughts in the NFL and in college football, and maybe even in the NBA. But there's a game that I wanted to get his thoughts on before I went after it later tonight. So let's talk about the association. Before we get to individual games, I keep bringing this up because you start to see the rumblings of conversations around certain awards. And we get off to strong. You see these guys get off to strong starts, and it's definitely worth discussing. But I do think that we get to a point where you're probably having a discussion that shouldn't be had. And I bring that up because Victor Wembanyama last night against the Miami Heat with another strong performance, 27 points, 18 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 blocks, and a steal with only 3 turnovers. He is now, for the season, averaging 30.2 points, 14.6 rebounds, 3.4 assists, and 4.8 blocks on 56% shooting from the floor. Now, his three-point shooting hasn't come around. He's only shooting 31% from three. But Wembanyama, one could argue, is showing great improvement, and there's a conversation to be had about whether or not he should be in contention for most improved player of the year. I don't think that should be the case. He's currently 30-1 to win most improved player of the year. I don't think we're going to have that. He was already one of the best players in the NBA. I think there's probably going to be some nerdy media argument that, he's improving. This could be it. We'll see. And he's very short for MVP, which the question becomes whether or not they can win enough games, and I'm starting to really come around on that. But the Spurs and Wembanyama are off to a fantastic start, now 5-0. And what's interesting about this start, if you look at the way their season is shaping up in the early going, they get Phoenix on Sunday, the Lakers next Wednesday, so a lot of space in between. They're not playing a ton of games over the next week. Houston, New Orleans, Chicago before a doubleheader against Golden State. That is a schedule that you could do some damage against. And we could be talking about this Spurs team floating near the top of the Western Conference standings for quite a while, which also would mean an in-season opportunity on a win total should that market really adjust very strongly. But we will see. But Wembanyama has been talked about to win most improved. He's been great, but I don't know if maybe it's worth the contention for the award. Before we get to the games, though, make sure if you're going to handicap the schedule, they take advantage of our Sports Equinox special because the NBA player prop AI projections have been absolutely great. And with Equinox here, we got a great special for you. You sign up now, get full VSiN Pro access to everything we do through May 1st for only $120. It's less than $20 a month. That's everything. The daily best bets from hosts and guests, DraftKings, Circa, and Bracco betting splits, AI-driven prop projections that I just mentioned with the NBA props, the NFL props, 24/7 live and on-demand video, as well as exclusive coverage for all of the things going on in the world of sports, NBA, NHL regular seasons, March Madness, NFL draft. Don't wait. Limited time offer. Don't wait at all. Go to VSiN.com/subscribe, VSIN.com/subscribe. All right, Atlanta and Indiana. Let's start at the top of the rotation, work our way around here. Atlanta, a 2.5-point favorite on the road against the Pacers. Totals 232.5. I'll be involved here I do like the Pacers in this spot. Injury report for the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young, we know he hurt his knee against Brooklyn in the first quarter the other night. He will not play. And it is an injury list, a laundry list of the walking wounded for the Indiana Pacers. Benedict Matherin's out. TJ McConnell's out. Andrew Nembhard is out. Obi Toppin is out. All of the key names here, amongst some others that are not going to be available. But I do think Atlanta is going to desperately miss Trae Young at the point guard position. I don't think they really have much at that position. Creation, ball handling, scoring from the point guard spot. It's going to be a really big challenge for the Hawks. And say what you want about Indiana and all of these injuries and how this is going for this team, and hasn't gone well. You know, right now, 27th in net rating. There's been some ugly losses on the ledger here. You look at what they've had to do. But they've been on the road on this road trip. This is now their first game back home. They're coming in off of a day of rest. So they open up at home against Oklahoma City, a game in which they cover and push the defending champs to double overtime. Then they immediately have to hit the road with some of these injuries. You know, get blown out by Memphis, lose a close one to Minnesota, lose a tight one to Dallas. A lot of this negative net rating, if you will, ties more into their offense than anything else. But their defense has actually been pretty solid in 2 of the 4 games we've seen. I think they're well coached enough to take on Atlanta here without Trae Young. So I think they're going to be live to grab this thing outright. Moneyline price is plus 120. Worth looking at there with the 2.5. Total's 232.5. You can make the argument that maybe you just wait to get a bigger number here, but do think there is some value in this pre-flop spread. Let's go to Boston and Philadelphia. This one's interesting, and I'm not just trying to curry favor with producer Justin here as he rocks his Mario Halloween costume in the back and a big Philly guy. I texted the Hardwood Handicappers group chat. And I asked, I was like, hey, man, like, can we explain what's going on here? This opened up in some spots. Philly as about a 2.5 point favorite according to my notes here, and yet we have seen this flip in certain spots to Boston as about a 1.5 point favorite. I thought it was more than fair to open up Philly as the favorite. We know that Joel Embiid is on the minutes restriction, but as of right now, and I'll check, I haven't seen an updated injury report. Embiid is not out on the injury report. It's just Paul George and Jared McCain. By the way, McCain on his way back. He's been practicing again, so that'd be good for a loaded Philly backcourt. And while the Celtics don't really have anybody, we saw this odd push at the beginning of the season, if you remember, when these two teams opened up against each other. And with the injury news, you know, everything about Embiid and the minutes restriction and Jaylen Brown, was he going to play, was he not? We ultimately got to a point where the Celtics were 6.5 point favorites at home, and yet they lost the game. And granted, Philly needed to make a pretty big comeback here, but just from a numbers standpoint, a power rating standpoint, I don't know if there is this gap that the market thinks there is between these two. The market clearly believes Boston is a better team. I don't know if that's the case. I'll take my chances with the 76ers, who they themselves are off to a very good start this season. And a lot of it has had to do with this backcourt and the play of this backcourt. But Philly, undefeated for a reason, and I think we're undervaluing what this team really is, especially when it comes to the strength of their guards. So I'll take a crack at it. I took a piece of Philly pick here against the Boston Celtics. Think that we're getting in a weird spot with this rating and this dynamic between these two teams, this being the second time that they have played here in the first week of the NBA season. Big injury report for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Let's go here as Toronto will take on Cleveland. Current number right now, 5.5 with a total of 239.5. Cavs are the favorite, but it's going to matter who plays. This opened up 8.5 on the overnight, but Jared Allen is questionable, as is Donovan Mitchell. Sam Merrill remains out, as does Darius Garland and Max Strus, who we know they're recovering from procedures themselves. But the Cavaliers are a 6.5 point favorite, total of 239.5. This is going to be interesting to see whether or not Donovan Mitchell plays. He was a late addition to the injury report the other night, and they had to ask him on court while they were on the air whether or not he was going to play. He ultimately does, but the Cavaliers end up losing the game, 125-105, to the Celtics on the road. A relatively important game, as they all are, but it's part of a homestand here. They're going to be at home for the next 3 days. One could argue that maybe they can give Donovan some rest, but keep that in mind. And it does speak to, I didn't bring this up yesterday, but one of the more stupid injury conversation pieces that we had missed as part of yesterday's show, because I was so distracted by my co-host's outfit, was the fact that, for those who don't know, and this is actually pretty good because Donovan Mitchell is questionable today. Donovan Mitchell, I think it's something out of like 150 of 151 times in his time with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Ballpark it, but there's only been one time it hasn't happened, and we're well into the triple digits. This is the whole point here. He'll tweet out, #LetHimKnow, whenever he is about to start a game. Well, the other day, he tweets that out, and yet after he tweets it out, he pops up as questionable on the injury report. So we have all of this nonsense about whether or not he's going to be available. And yet it all stems, of course, from not only the injury report, but, hey, I mean, we have this track record of Donovan Mitchell tweeting this out. He's going to play. So keep an eye out if you're really tracking this game from an injury report standpoint and whether or not Donovan Mitchell is going to be out there. Just look to see if he tweets out the Cavs hashtag. If he does, he's going to start. He's done it almost every single time that he has been with the Cleveland Cavaliers. New York Knicks on the road against the Chicago Bulls. Knicks are a 4.5-point favorite over at DraftKings, 5 here at Circa and everywhere else with a total of 233. This is going to be great. Will the Chicago Bulls lose a game? That is the question everybody is asking. There's a lot of signs here. Not that the Bulls are fraudulent, but that the Bulls are playing well above their skis. If you look at this, Chicago, location, effective field goal percentage, all of these different metrics, they are shooting the hell out of the ball right now. Especially when it comes to beyond the arc, all of these dudes, but Chicago's really playing well. Some of it has to do with some unsustainable shooting metrics that you probably think are to come down to earth. Give you an example. 24th in shooting at the rim, Chicago is during this undefeated start, and yet 10th in three-point shooting. A lot of their scoring coming in the form of jump shots, not really forcing too much pressure within 4 feet of the basket. In terms of free throw rate for Chicago as well, near the bottom of the league, 18th in terms of free throw rate, 22.2 free throws per 100 shot attempts. So the whole point here being is that it would seem somewhat unsustainable the way that Chicago is generating its offense, and at some point you're going to run out. I think that this is one where you're taking New York. My trepidation is whether or not this injury report's going to pan out. A little gun shy, to use that term again, after the other day. Mitchell Robinson is questionable, but that's not the name. Karl Anthony Towns on the report. Now, he is probable, but I do think this is a side where New York's going to be able to stamp out this winning streak. The overnight was 2.5 with a total of 235.5, but this seems to be one where matchup-wise and just given what we know about Chicago, that this is probably a good spot for the Magic to wear off for the Bulls. We'll have more on the rotation to wrap up the show. Lakers, Grizzlies is going to be pretty interesting. Luka Doncic, he's supposed to be out for more than a week. He has popped up on the injury report as questionable, so we will see whether or not he can make it tonight to take on the Grizzlies. Original overnight was 5.5. Folks, First Bet, the official racing partner of VSiN, is thrilled to bring an exclusive offer to bet the Breeders' Cup World Championships. Use promo code VSINBC, VSINBC. You'll be entered to win a VIP Vegas experience when you deposit and bet $200. Check it out. Bet the Breeders' Cup with First Bet, the official racing partner of VSiN. Promo code VSINBC at first.com/VSIN. That's the number one, st.com/VSIN.
Did you know your credit card points and miles can lose value to inflation? Credit card companies often reduce the redemption value of your points and miles. Now imagine a credit card with rewards that can grow in value. With the Gemini credit card, you can earn Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos instantly with no annual fee. Every swipe at the store or gas pump earns you instant rewards deposited straight to your account. Plus, sign up now for a $200 Bitcoin bonus to kickstart your rewards. Visit Gemini.com/card today. Check out the link in the description for more information on rates and fees. Again, if you're looking to invest in Bitcoin but don't know where to start, the Gemini credit card makes it easy.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
If you head over to VSiN.com and you check out the standings in the Circa Friday Football Invitational, you see a couple familiar names up there. Chris the Bear Felica, Mike North, who's been on the program with us before. But between those two names is a lone man in second. Jason Jarvis, 30-26, 7-1 on the best bets, and he joins us now here on this Friday to discuss the standing in the contest and a little football. Jason, we appreciate it. Before we look ahead, let's take a look back. Last night, the Baltimore Ravens renewed, healthy. Lamar Jackson comes back, does what he always does, dominates the Miami Dolphins, and helps lead to the Ravens to a victory. What do we do with Baltimore now that this team is not only healthy once again, but has quite the scheduling opportunity in front of them?
Hey, thanks for having me, JVT. Yeah, I'm really excited about the Ravens team. I put out even I waited until the Chicago game to see if they could get by them without Lamar. Once they did, I just think this team's set to go on a roll. You know, if you look back to week one, they really dominated that Bills team. The fact that they lost the game was a bit of a shock. then their defense has a number of injuries. Next thing you know, they're 1-5. But getting that win last night, I don't see them losing more than one, maybe two games max the rest of the way here. I think there's a great opportunity. I tweeted out last week to take them at 11-1 to win the division. I think that's down to 8 or 9-1 now. I still think there's great value in that. Even if it's not to win the division, I see them going very far in the playoffs, and you have a great hedge opportunity if that's the case. So I'm high on the Baltimore team. I don't know if anyone caught this because the game was such a blowout, but see on the sidelines at the end of the game, Harbaugh and his team were hugging like they just won the Super Bowl. I think there was a huge weight lifted off their shoulders. They're back to 3-5. They've got a pretty easy schedule coming up, a number of divisional games, of which I don't think are all that challenging. So I think this is a great time to jump on the Baltimore bandwagon.
Yep, I would agree. It's one of the things that we have wrestled with. So let's keep this theme going then, because their division foe, the Pittsburgh Steelers, on a little bit of a slide. On this show, Jason, I have been the anti-Steelers voice, and I have told Stormy 1,000 times over, like, watch out, this team's a fraud. They're going to come back down to earth. They seem to be heading in that direction, and now it's an interesting spot, catching a full field goal against the Indianapolis Colts at home. What do you make of what the Steelers have in front of them this weekend?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. The Colts are probably the hottest team in the NFL. I think they're averaging almost 34 points a game. The reality is, I always thought Danny Dimes was better than his numbers looked. He was always under a constant barrage when he was playing for the Giants. So, you have an offense that's clicking, going against a defense that's really underachieved year to date. They've got a lot of big names on the Pittsburgh side of the ball. But, the Steelers are coming off that tough Sunday night loss in what we'll call the Rogers Bowl. They've lost 2 out of 3. Again, that defense, a lot of big names, and Watt and Hayward, Porter Jr., they're going to have to step up at some point. They do rank well against the run. I think if they can, limit Taylor in that matchup, stack the box, and make Daniel Jones beat them, that's got to be the strategy. I also think that the Steelers are going to have success moving the ball against the Colts. I think this is going to be a close game. I really do see it being decided by a field goal or less. Going into Pittsburgh, not an easy place to play. Pittsburgh at +2.5. I think the line's hovering at 3 even right now. And a rowdy home field advantage is going to be the key to this one. So I lean Steelers in this game.
All right, like it. Jason Jarvis with us again. The Circa Friday Football Invitational every Friday night, so make sure you check it out. In second place here, Humans will be on the call as he usually is coming up this evening. Let's take a look at a couple of these others. Walk me through. I'm really fascinated by this dynamic. We were just talking about this a couple of minutes ago. Broncos-Texans. I've espoused like this odd stubbornness in the betting market. It's actually somewhat similar to Baltimore, right? The market never really fully fell off with Baltimore. A lot of people expressed surprise. I am surprised, Jason, that we continue to see the Texans rated the way that they are, and here they are, a 1.5-point favorite at home against Denver with a total of 39.5.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I was much higher on the Texans, and their offense has just looked atrocious until last week against San Fran. I will say I did think that they were going to show up after a bye week and go into Seattle, win the game, and that couldn't have been further from the truth. But I did come back and play them as my best bet last week against San Francisco. The offense is getting healthier. Denver's coming in off their impressive beatdown to the Cowboys, but, then again, it is the Cowboys, right? Texans riding high, as I'd mentioned, off that win against the Niners. To me, the big story in this game is going to be the absence of, All-Pro Patrick Surtain. So the Texans' offense has been pedestrian until last week. They started to get it going. But having Nico Collins and Christian Kirk back ready to go this week, I think that's going to make a huge difference. You've got 2 excellent defenses going against one another, but I'll take the home team here to get the W, and what should also be, in my opinion, a pretty close game.
All right, let's stay in the AFC. Patriots, a team that, of course, have, I think, surprised some people. The expectation was going to be a better team, but they look great. Drake May on the fringes of MVP conversations. What do we make of them on the road against the Falcons squad who, after last night, Jason, how do you explain what the Falcons did against Miami? Now they hit the road to take on the Patriots. Right now it's a 5.5-point spread.
In full transparency, I think one of the keys to my success over the years in handicapping the NFL is really not putting too much weight in what we've seen the week before, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Yep. As soon as the Falcons ruled out Drake London, I knew that was going to be an issue for them just in scoring some points last week. So, we now fast forward to a game in New England. We're New England, returning from a really good road trip. I think the Falcons are going to come in here, though, and give New England a major test. The Patriots have been great. But if you step back and look at their schedule, and I think Will Hill hit upon this last hour, they had the impressive Sunday night win against Buffalo. But since then, they've beaten the likes of the Saints, the Titans, the Browns. And you can add the Panthers in there earlier in the year. And, that's making up their 5-game win streak. Their other win was against the Dolphins. So, the Saints, Titans, and Browns, those teams are ecstatic if they score more than a touchdown in the game. So hardly a murderer's row lineup. I live in Connecticut. Everyone here is acting like Drake May is already Tom Brady, reincarnated with some mobility. He's been fantastic. I'm a big Vrabel fan as well. But I'm not ready to anoint the Patriots as one of the best teams in football. Ramondre Stevenson was ruled out with a toe injury, so looks like they're going to have to go to the rookie Henderson. I've been pretty high in this Falcons team all year, and, they've disappointed the last couple weeks. I mentioned last week, the week before that against San Fran, they laid an egg. But this offense has a chance to be dynamic when Penix is healthy. He's set to get the start. London is back in the lineup. Should have Mooney and Pitts ready to go as well. Their defense has improved. Atlanta's lost 2 straight. It's a critical game for them. I see them showing up big time on Sunday, and I think they might get the outright. They travel to Indy next week, and a loss to New England would put them at 3-5 heading to that tilt. So I think you're going to see a desperate team giving an A+ effort Sunday.
Yep, Atlanta will be taking on Indy. That'll be in Germany, though. That's actually a neutral site game for those two before Indy heads off. Yep. Yeah, before Indy heads off into a bye.
They are still playing the Colts.
yes, they are still playing the Colts. Jason Jarvis with us. So, Jason, I'm curious here. I want to get a general thought from you because you're looking at the Atlanta Falcons. We talked about the Steelers at home catching the field goal. The storyline for bettors over the last few weeks has been these favorites coming in at a pretty easy margin. But you've been doing well in the Circa Friday Football Invitational. You mentioned not looking week to week, but has that factored in at all, how these favorites have been doing? Are you just sticking to your process? How has the big rate of favorites impacted you as a handicapper over the last few weeks?
So I'll tell you this. I'm an 80% dog player. If you look at my history over the last 5 years, and I've got the top documented winning percentage in the Circa over 5 years, I'm a predominant dog guy, probably 80% of my plays. It's kind of crazy. This year, I looked, and I was on with Humans last week. I forget the number, but I think I'm 8-0 when using either a pick'em or a favorite this year. So I've just been doing a good job finding the games where I think that a favorite's going to win the game pretty easily. Conversely, I try to pick dogs that I think have a chance to win outright. Last year was my first losing year in a number of years, and then the favorites came in week after week. You think the trend has to change, but it didn't. I'm optimistic, and I feel good about where I am right now. I'm in the top 10% with my Circa Millions entries. Lots of time to make up that gap, and these contests are tough, right? You're playing kind of stale numbers, and I play these games earlier in the week. I tend to get the better of them, so it's a challenge, and it's something though that I'm excited about, and definitely looking forward to the second half of the year.
Follow him up on X at JJarv NFL Bets. Jason, we are up against it, but thanks for a couple minutes, man. Again, second place in the Circa Friday Football Invitational. Good luck, and we'll check in again near the tail end of the year, okay?
Great chatting with you. Appreciate you having me.
Yep, you got it again, Jason Jarvis, and make sure you check out his picks and all of our handicappers' picks later tonight in the Circa Friday Football Invitational with Humans. Again, Jarvis in second place, and not only that, but 7-1 in his best bets for the Circa Friday Football Invitational. Chatted about the Patriots, Falcons, Colts, Steelers, Broncos, Texans. If you missed any part of those conversations, check out Money Moves wherever you get your podcasts. Like, rate, review, and subscribe. Don't know what they are, but we do know that Seahawks, Commanders, Cardinals, Cowboys are on Jason's radar. We just don't know what side. We do know what side, but I'm not going to spoil it. We do know what side Zach Cohen likes in Grizzlies, Lakers, but a big update on the injury report. How does it impact his thinking and more? We'll do that, discuss it with Zach when we come back here on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Wow. I think a shocking upset has just occurred. I set the odds on what Paul Howard's Halloween costume was going to be today, and I was incorrect. I know what Paul Howard is for Halloween. I'm looking at him right now. It's a good costume, very simple costume. You'll find out what that is coming up in about 30 minutes as Follow the Money will be at the desk. But we head out to the Progressive Guest Line. Welcome in Zach Cohen. You can follow him on Twitter at Betting on X. You can follow him on X, Betting on X. First off, I've been asking, the folks that have been with us that I know are parents. You are a new parent, but you have a child whose brain is still potato-esque. So how are you handling Halloween?
We're handling it however my wife wants to handle it, which I think is we are going out with her trick-or-treating as adults for a baby that does not eat candy. So we are just doing all the stuff.
Hey, I'll tell you this. And by the way, there was not an insult specifically at your child. My children were potato-esque at that point, too. They don't know what's going on. It is the best way to get candy for no work whatsoever. You just put them in something simple, and for some reason, adults will still put candy in the bag. It's absolutely brilliant. So just go take advantage of it. But with that does mean that you and all of us will probably miss out on some good hoops tonight because it's a fun card and the first card of the NBA Cup. So let's start with the Grizzlies and the Lakers because this looks like a fun game. And I was watching the Grizzlies against your Suns the other night. I kind of like the pieces. It was a disjointed effort against Phoenix, not the most impressive, but they're back at home against the Lakers. And I'm interested here. This seems like a short price, but we've also seen Luka Doncic pop up as questionable. Do we think he's going to play tonight?
I think he is. I mean, when I wrote it up, it was minus 120 for Memphis. It's now plus 120 for Memphis. Yeah. I did allude to it in the story. I said there's probably a good chance you're going to get a plus money price on the Grizzlies by waiting a little bit. I mean, this is a finger injury. They should know that he's ready to go, and I'm guessing that that's what the sports books are reacting to. Having said that, I think Memphis is better than Los Angeles, and I've thought that, since before the season, and I just think this is a really good opportunity to kind of buy low on this Grizzlies team, which I've been saying for a few weeks now is still very, very good. Offensively, I mean, you lost Desmond Bane. That's, going to be very difficult for them to overcome. But Cedric Coward looks unbelievable for a rookie. I mean, almost looks like a seasoned veteran right now. The way he's just kind of knocking down threes, making all the right plays, playing some good defense. And then, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has played a little bit better than he did in Orlando. The three still needs to come around. But I just think that Ja and Jaren Jackson Jr. duo is still so good that I just don't really see why people are so down on Memphis.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is an aspect of some no-nameness, if you understand what I'm saying. There's a lot of guys on Memphis that I think aren't really recognizable. And so maybe there's a thought, including their head coach, by the way, who has great hair, maybe a thought that this team isn't as good as it only has Ja and it only has Jaren Jackson Jr. But I noted this the other day. I can't remember where we were at. I think it was here on Money Moves. But as you know, they've done such a good job of developing these guys, Zach, that I think they are a better team, even with some of these dudes that we're not quite familiar with. And I'm with you. I wanted to hear your opinion on it, but do like Memphis here in this spot tonight against L.A. Let's go to Cleveland. A lot of injuries for the Cavaliers. Donovan Mitchell's questionable. We'll see if he tweets out hashtag let him know so he can tell the world whether or not he's going to start tonight. But they're missing Darius Garland. They're missing Merrill. I mean, we saw Evan Mobley the other day take 8 threes because they just need some sort of shooting. Does that mean a bigger role for Lonzo Ball? Because I've been kind of trying to play with betting on him here and there. I feel like at some point he's going to have a pretty big role for this team.
Yeah, I think it's going to mean a bigger role, but even if it doesn't, I still like over 4.5 assists, which I got at minus 125. Ball's averaging about 9 potential assists per game and 7 adjusted assists per game. He's doing a really good job of setting up his Cavaliers teammates for easy buckets, and whether or not they convert them, that's really not important to me. As long as he is setting them up for opportunities, this feels like a good bet right now. He has gone over 4.5 in all of the games he has played this year, and Toronto has been really bad defensively. I mean, we saw last year, second half of last season, they were one of the best teams in the league in terms of defensive rating. They are down at the bottom of the league right now, I believe in 28th at the moment. So this is a very beatable defense, especially for assists. I think there are only 3 teams in the entire NBA are giving up more assists per game than Toronto. This just feels like a great opportunity to back ball in some capacity.
Zach with us here on the betting, the Progressive guest line. You can follow him up on X at Betting on X. Check the columns, by the way. There's 2 different types of columns right now. There's the player prop column and then the actual best bets column.
Yep, I'm doing both sides and totals in one column and then player props in another, where I'm looking at, some of the Opta AI player projections and then also giving out some of my own best bets.
All right, make sure you check them out. I read them every single day. They are a must-read for anybody out there who wants to get in tune with the NBA on a daily basis. All right, Portland Trail Blazers, one of the better stories of the early portion of the season. They are taking on the Denver Nuggets, and the most expensive bench player in the world will be on the floor tonight. Jeremy Grant, what do we do with him against Denver tonight?
I'm going over 15.5 points again. I've been backing this one early in the year. This is actually one that the Opta AI player projections have put me on. Several times this season, they've had him projected for 20 plus, and he has scored at least 17 in every single game he has played this year. Grant is shooting very, very well from three-point land, but he's also getting to the free throw line about 7 times per game. So he's just doing a really good job of scoring off the bench. He's an expensive bench player, as you just said, but this is a team that desperately needs offense, and he's providing it in a big way. So I do think that he's going to have another big game against Denver. I mean, this is a Nuggets team that I'm a very big believer in long-term, but defensively, they're still very burnable, and Grant has been very, very good throughout his career at shooting at the Moda Center. He's a very good three-point shooter there.
Should we be adding 11-1 for him to win Sixth Man of the Year? Like, is he going to be coming off the bench all year long?
That's what I'm a little concerned about. Is I think he's played well enough to earn himself a spot in the starting lineup, especially if they start to slow down offensively at some point. The winds start to become a little drier. So I do wonder if he's going to play his way into that starting five.
Yeah, I think that's the big risk. But if he continues this, you could argue he's the favorite given his veteran status, his ability to score. He is like a patented Sixth Man of the Year candidate if you're looking at it. All right, real quick, before we move on from the NBA, I wanted to get your thoughts on a couple of things. First off, Atlanta, Indiana. I bet Indiana today against the Hawks. No Trae Young for Atlanta. I've been kind of impressed with Indiana. I don't know if you've thought about them, but I'm curious what you think about them tonight, only because despite the fact that they have all of these injuries, they fought pretty well in a few of these games. They pushed Minnesota. They pushed OKC. I don't know, man. You were all over them last year. They're a pretty well-coached group, and their defense this year is actually holding them up.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit nervous about that injury report. I mean, obviously we know that Halliburton's out for the year and Nembhard's been out for the last couple of weeks, but this is now Benedict Mathurin, Obi Toppin. Like, they are down a lot of bodies. Having said that, like, they are a very well-coached team. They plug guys in and those guys do their jobs. So it's definitely a spot where I view them as live to win their first game. I mean, the Hawks are not looking as good as any of us wanted them to. And without Trae Young, they are going to be starving for offense.
I mean, everything remains the same. The Hawks are going to burn us once more when it comes to some of these futures. Real quick, what about Boston and Philadelphia? Can you explain this dynamic? I tried to touch on it earlier. I went back to the first day where, market freaks out, Joel Embiid minutes restriction. Boston gets up to a 6.5-point favorite in that first game. They lose the game outright, and now here we are again. We get this push where Boston at one point was favored. Now it's a pick. I don't get it. The injury report looks pretty clean for Philly.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of like Boston in this game just because I do think it's going to come down to perimeter firepower. And, the Celtics, if they're weak anywhere this season, it is at that center spot. And if Embiid plays, 20 minutes or whatever, they're going to dominate inside when he's out there. But he's not playing the end of the games. And I do think that Boston is starting to look a little bit better. So I actually do have in my column a parlay with the Celtics on an alternate line of 7.5 with the Bulls plus 12.5 against the Knicks.
Ooh. Okay, and by the way, that is a good reminder. Zach does update the columns throughout the day, so make sure you check that out because he will add plays throughout. All right, well, then you said it, and I know we had some NFL plays, but I don't get to talk NBA. Stormy doesn't let me, so I have to get it out somewhere. Does Chicago lose tonight? I know you teased you have them as part of this alternate parlay, but I was making the case there is some unsustainability there in some of those numbers offensively for Chicago.
Yeah, I did write that this is definitely a spot where they can lose, and they probably will lose a close game. But the reality is I took the 12.5 because I can't see them getting blown out. That's really all that I did there. I do think that there is a connectivity that they're playing with, and I do think that they're playing very well offensively, and the Knicks are a team that I'm a little worried about defensively. As long as Towns is playing through this injury, I mean, he's a bad defender to begin with, but making him slower and less agile, like, it's not going to do them any favors. And Mitchell Robinson also banged up at the moment. So I just think Chicago is going to have some success offensively in this game, but the Knicks really should be able to win this one outright, even if it is very close.
All right, last 60 seconds, so I'll use this time to, again, we're just going to do NBA here, man. This is a reuniting of sorts with this NBA season starting. I have fallen in love. I'm in. Mitch was supposed to talk me off the edge on Pod to the Futures, and instead he pushed me over. I mean, are the Spurs going to win the championship this year? This team looks incredible.
They do look really good, but they have not played anyone yet, which is what I'm waiting to see is when they play someone good. Because I also thought Miami played pretty well last night. And it was actually a very interesting game because Bam did a very good job defending Victor Wembanyama and also did a good job attacking him on offense. So I'm curious to see what Wemby looks like against some of these stronger big men. And I am interested in seeing what they look like against a good team because the Heat, maybe if they had Norman Powell last night, would have won that game outright. Miami's all of a sudden one of my favorite teams to watch in the league.
Yep, there's a great breakdown out there about how they've kind of taken some principles from Memphis and started to use it with their offense. And Spoelstra's just doing his things. And they throw out that crappy zone yesterday. I think it was like a 17-0 run at one point against San Antonio. So I think you are right. Zach, it was good to talk to you, man. And thanks as always. Talk next week, all right?
You too.
Yep, again, follow him on X, Betting on X. Columns every single day, multiple columns every day, NFL, NBA, and more. Check them all out up at VSiN.com.
Are you interested in effortlessly growing your Bitcoin portfolio? I sure am. The Bitcoin credit card by Gemini earns you Bitcoin back on every purchase. Use it like any credit card. Buy lunch, gas, or your weekly groceries, and you'll earn up to 4% back instantly in Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos straight to your account. All that with no annual fee. And right now, you can grab a $200 Bitcoin welcome bonus. It's the easiest way to start building your Bitcoin stack. Go to Gemini.com/card to learn more. Terms apply. See the link in the description for more information regarding rates and fees.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Folks, a reminder that when we come back here on Money Moves, that means on Monday, so Stormy Bonatoni will be back, and obviously our regular programming as usual on Mondays. We'll also have college basketball. Very excited for that. So please make sure you're ready for it. We do have a lot of content up on the website. That includes our college basketball betting guide. It's a great time to tell you about it as the college basketball season tipping off on Monday is the time to get ready for it. You get Matt Euman's top 50 rankings. He's got a lot of futures that are worth looking at as well. All 31 conference previews. You get Wooden Award futures and candidates to look at. Season-long prop bets, betting nuggets on every major conference team from Greg Hoops Peterson. The only way to get the guide is to become a VSiN Pro subscriber. Sign up now, just $120. Get VSiN Pro access to everything we do until May 1st. College basketball all season long. March Madness and beyond, less than $20 a month. Sign up today at VSiN.com/subscribe. VSIN.com/subscribe. Yeah, really looking forward to the season. Now, it's one of those things where, you always start, I think, something with vigor and you're really excited. And then like 2 weeks in, I'm like, man, I don't know if I can handle all this. But very much looking forward to college hoops getting started this coming weekend. All right, with that, let's take a look at some best bets before we zoom out and talk about some news and some other things heading into the week. We'll wrap up on some of the NBA card that we didn't get to later tonight as well. Last night, just the one best bet for me when we talked about the association and more. Orlando Magic get it done on the second leg of a back-to-back against the Charlotte Hornets. So now we move on to today. Got a couple of things to get to in the association. 3 bets in the NBA tonight. See if we can get there with them. First off, I don't really feel great about pushing back on the grain here. Actually, we'll start there because I do see where our production team is going. Let's go Pacers money line plus 115 first. Throw this up. 2.5-point underdogs at home. Total 232.5. Take a piece of that plus 120 at home against the Indiana Pacers, against the Atlanta Hawks. Understand everything with the Indiana Pacers. You look at where they're at from an injury report standpoint. To list this off one more time, Benedict Mathurin, T.J. McConnell, Andrew Nembhard, Obi Toppin, all out for a team that's already, of course, missing Tyrese Halliburton. But I think Indiana is well coached enough in this spot to take on Atlanta without Trae Young. They've done a tremendous job. You look at them defensively. Their defense has actually been the strength of this team for the most part, and I think they're going to be well schemed enough here at home to take on Atlanta. Remember, part of this little rough patch they've been on because they covered and pushed Oklahoma City to start the season. Then they immediately embarked on a 3-game road trip. They're back home here. Do think that coming back home against a shorthanded Hawks team without their best player, and a Hawks team that, as Zach mentioned, has been pretty poor in their own right. They did not cover against Brooklyn the other night. That's the game in which Trey went down with the injury. They come into this game giving up 120.4 points per 100 possessions. I think that your floor as an offense is raised when you take on a team like Atlanta. Indiana has done enough on defense, right in the middle, 114.7 points per 100 possessions allowed in non-garbage time. It's been the offense that has been a problem. And give the Pacers credit. They're actually a pretty decent rebounding team still, especially when it comes to limiting second chance opportunities. They don't turn the ball over either. Their offense on the first shot is just inefficient. I think that they can do enough to grab this win. So did play the Pacers money line. Also went with the Philadelphia 76ers. That is a pick. A lot of spots are at 1.5. So shop around. There's a lot of different places you can look at this thing. This is the one that I don't feel the strongest about, but this is what we'll call the play on principle. Just from a number standpoint, I just don't really buy that there is this gap that the market wants to tell us there is between Boston and Philadelphia. I have fallen for what this backcourt has been for the Philadelphia 76ers. They've looked really solid at the guard position, and there's a lot of metrics you look at for Philly that you don't really feel too great about. Specifically, their defense has not been good in the early going, 23rd in defensive efficiency early on in the season. They, too, giving up about 120 points per 100 possessions. But unlike Atlanta, they are balancing that out with an offense that has been very good through the first 4 games. 125.5 points every 100 possessions on offense for this team. That is good for second in the NBA, despite the fact that they are 23rd in defensive rating, giving up that amount of points per 100 possessions. They are still outscoring opponents by 5.3 points per 100 possessions through the first 4 games. Again, I just buy this backcourt. I buy what they're able to do. I don't think that there's this gap. I think they deserve to be favored by a little bit more at home, giving them home court against Boston. Celtics have looked much better, and Boston deserves credit because I think Joe Mazzulla is doing a pretty good job. And if you look at them, top 10 in both offense, defense, and, of course, net rating, despite the fact that they got off to that rough start. But I do think that Philly, given the strength of their backcourt, deserves a little bit of respect. And, by the way, Embiid's going to play tonight. It's going to be that 20-minute restriction yet again. We haven't gotten word whether or not he's actually going to start to open things up. But the fact that I'm going to get those 20 minutes and this backcourt's playing the way that it is, I think they're getting used to this, and I think the 76ers deserve a little bit more respect at home. A couple of others. We will ride with Zach on this one. Grizzlies money line. You can get them at about plus 115 at home against the Los Angeles Lakers. I would agree with everything that he has said to this point. When you look at Memphis, the offense, I think, has a lot of good pieces, and I think the offense as well presents a unique challenge for the Los Angeles Lakers. Yes, the Grizzlies so far have been somewhat disappointing. They've been outscored by 4.3 points per 100 possessions. Their defense is just in the fringes of the top 20, of the 20s. Same thing with their offense. But when you have such strong wing players and backcourt players going up against the Lakers, who Luka Doncic coming back from injury, yes, it's a finger. I thought Zach made a great point in that he's probably going to be fine if it's a finger injury, not a soft tissue injury. But pushing guys like Austin Reeves and others to defend out in space like this Grizzlies team is going to make them, I think the Grizz can have a pretty successful day. And I don't think they're at a point where, again, the market has kind of adjusted here, where you see them floating around as an underdog at home. Even with Luka Doncic out there, I think this is one of those classic markets, a little too strong on the brand name team, and 2.5 is not there. I think this Grizzlies squad is currently constructed is better than the Los Angeles Lakers, and at the very least is equal with the Los Angeles Lakers. So we'll go with the Grizzlies tonight in the association as well. So the 3 plays in the NBA for you: 76ers pick, Pacers money line plus 115, Grizzlies money line plus 115. Those prices available and altering in different places around. And that's it for the NBA card. I will say, injury report updates for the other games that we haven't hit on really quickly. Denver and Portland, we got a little bit of analysis from Zach on that one. Jeremy Grant coming off of the bench. He likes his point prop over. Some injury notes for this one, though. Cam Johnson, who missed the game the other day, was injured the other day, but did play in the game, I should say. He is probable to play for the Denver Nuggets. Jamal Murray is the big name, listed as questionable for Denver. We saw this open 4.5 with a total of 235.5. You see a little bit of a market adjustment given the questionable status, but still throwing around that 5.5-point mark, the assumption being that Jamal Murray is going to play here against Portland. This is a good game because you talk about the impressive starts and surprising starts for some of these teams. Portland is right up there with some of the teams that you've been impressed by, especially the way they've been able to play on defense. Not only giving up 112.5 points per 100 possessions in non-garbage time, but leading the league in turnover rate, forcing a turnover on 22% of opponent offensive possessions. Portland has made their hay in defending very well and forcing turnovers. I would look, and this is going to be interesting because there's 2 big weaknesses for Portland. First off, They are pretty poor in terms of rebounding. Opponents have grabbed 32.9% of their missed shot attempts against Portland. So with a big front court like Denver has, beating them up on the glass, generating second chance opportunities, one would assume that Denver's going to be able to do that. The other thing is Portland does have trouble defending without fouling. They're 27th in opponent free throw rate, giving up about 30.1 made free throws every 100 possessions. So they're putting guys on the line. They're not getting, or they're giving up second chance opportunities. Those are two things that I think Denver can really burn you on if that's going to be the case, especially if you can't defend those rebounds. So I think the market is probably a little short. Denver's looked great after that opening loss against Golden State, and Portland maybe near the top of the market when you talk about market power ratings, but very good game later tonight. Utah and Phoenix, injury report here. We won't spend a lot of time on this one. Phoenix, a 4.5-point favorite in the overnight with a total of 230.5. Dillon Brooks is not going to play. Jalen Green not going to play either. Mentioned that kind of ugly game that Phoenix played the other night against Memphis. George Niang on the other side against Utah is not available. You see the current numbers here, 2.5 in favor of the Suns with a total of 237.5. And then last but not least, and remember, these are all NBA Cup games tonight, folks. So this does matter. We get to see the great bright courts, but it does matter in the NBA Cup standings, so keep those in mind. Clippers open up NBA Cup play against the Pelicans. Nobody of note on the injury report for LA. Kevon Looney out for the New Orleans Pelicans. It's the only name so far. But Clippers are, going back to last year, a different team at home. They open up 8.5 with a total of 231.5 on the overnight, currently laying 10.5 at home against the Pelicans with a total of 222.5. Clippers, I think you can argue, have been pretty disappointing to start the year, just 2-2. The offense and defense have been pretty shockingly bad. Really, though, it's been the lack of defense that has been surprising for a team that made its hay last year, playing very strong defensively, but we haven't really seen the consistency there. Golden State and Utah both burning this team, but showing up in a pretty big way against Phoenix and Portland. We'll see if they can even this thing out. Last edition really quick, Tennessee -3 in college football this coming weekend. We'll have more coming up this Sunday as Stormy and I will be on the desk. Of course, remember, countdown to kickoff, part of the weekend programming. But coming up next, Follow the Money. We'll be with you from 4 to 7 Eastern time. Boys are dressed up in their Halloween costumes, some strong ones. I know the reference for one. I didn't understand the other. Well, you can see who that is coming up next. And then remember, we had Jason Jarvis on today, the second place standings handicapper for the Friday Football Invitational. That gets started at 7 p.m., followed by the SGP boys at 10. So don't miss out. And if you missed out on any part of the programming, you know where to go, VSiN.com or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll talk to you on Sunday here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Did you know your credit card points and miles can lose value to inflation? Credit card companies often reduce the redemption value of your points and miles. Now imagine a credit card with rewards that can grow in value. With the Gemini credit card, you can earn Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos instantly with no annual fee. Every swipe at the store or gas pump earns you instant rewards deposited straight to your account. Plus, sign up now for a $200 Bitcoin bonus to kickstart your rewards. Visit Gemini.com/card today. Check out the link in the description for more information on rates and fees. Again, if you're looking to invest in Bitcoin but don't know where to start, the Gemini credit card makes it easy.